So we're going to talk about two different things. I know that probably the first thought is, hey, Carlos, are you going to comment on some of the hobby drama evolving right now between sports card radio and a variety of other content creators? Not yet, my friends, not yet. Truthfully, I kind of want to sit back. I've been kind of observing it and kind of seeing what happens with it and kind of the whole back and forth. Here's what I promise. I'm going to sit back and I'm going to kind of keep an eye on the whole ping pong match that's going back and forth because even as we speak, there's still some more elements that I think are going to be fleshed out over the course of the week. If for whatever reason, by the time we get to Friday, you guys still are interested and we want to discuss it at all, we definitely can. By that point, we'll have had some time to percolate on it. I've definitely got my opinions on it based on the source and also the content and the context of the content. But we'll get into all that by Friday if the interest is still there. Otherwise, there's no reason for me to delve into it any further than that. For the moment, we can stick to the general hobby news and all that for now. So, two stories that I want to talk about, and they're both in the title, so it's pretty straightforward. Links will be in the description for everything as usual, so you can definitely check it out there. First one is SGC has got a couple of updates. The first one being that it's updated its snazzy new website. And as I've been talking, you've been seeing a little scroll banner going across. That's we're going to discuss here in a moment. So the website has been updated. It's been modernized to a certain degree. It looks nice and clean. I'll say that. Pretty straightforward, pretty good in terms of what it's trying to accomplish here. So we definitely got that. Now, the second thing that's definitely been a bit of a change here is that they've made an update to their pricing structure. Whereas before, under the declared value under 1500, there was basically two options. There was the really fast 1 to 2 day option, and then there was the $30 tier. So they've added a couple of tiers in between, estimated 10 business days and estimated 5 business days. And they've also tweaked the price of the 1 to 2 day down to 125 for the lowest tier under $1,500. And then they've decreased the amount of estimated business days for that tier to 20 to 25 days on the high end. Now, part of the reason SGC can do this is that they've done, like I said, contrary to popular belief, because as I said, friend of the channel, Brad, does PSA Canada as far as bulk submissions on the Canadian side. We're pretty much grading agnostic here. We will talk about any of the grading companies. If they do something good, great. If they do something bad, we'll talk about that too. And then if they're really ugly, HGA, then we'll make fun of them accordingly. But SGC has been doing a very good job as far as maintaining and controlling its turnaround times and keeping that under control. Again, it's still not my first choice, but I outlined the reasons why in a previous video, and it has nothing to do with the quality of their work. It has nothing to do with their credibility in the market. It is simply that the value proposition isn't there for me in terms of what I'm doing. If the pricing is a little bit lower on this bottom end, then it becomes a little bit more viable for me. But again, it's not going to be one size fits all. It's really going to depend on your use case and what you want. And to be honest with you, this change as far as having additional options, there's nothing bad about this. Now I did laugh because I did see some stuff in the social media thing. It's like game changing, things from SEC. It's like, is it game changing? No. And again, it's no slight on SEC. They're actually doing quite a good job. And I do appreciate as a consumer having additional options. Having these additional tiers are good because if you want to get your cards back a little bit quicker, well, then you pay a little bit of a premium. And then obviously as you go up to the declared value, then the pricing goes up accordingly anyway. So that's always been part of this game, and it's still going to continue to be part of this game. But more options for the consumer, that's never a bad thing. That's a good thing. Now, the last change, and I think the most significant. So the new website, the fancy new website, that's great and all. These additional grading tiers may not affect most people. I think most people are still going to stick right down here for the lower price stuff in this bottom tier. And if you do use a bulk submitter, again, a bit of a topic that came up last week about the whole bulk submitter thing. But if you do use a bulk submitter, you can get a little bit of a discount on this in most cases. So I think a lot of folks who are SGC are going to be utilizing that option anyway. So I don't think it's going to change life for you, but it is nice to have some additional options. Again, more options for the consumer. That's a good thing. I think the biggest one that I think is a good thing is that now with the certification lookup, they actually are going to be leveraging the database of images that they've started to accumulate. From what I believe from Peter from SGC said in his social media posts, which again, I'll link in the description, I believe they've been scanning all the stuff they've been grading for about the last year and a half. So about the last 18 months for all those items and stuff that goes forward, what's being graded going forward. They're doing high resolution scans of these cards, and which will allow you then to use this certification lookup to be able to see high res scans of the card in question. So not only will you be able to validate that the grading is appropriate based on the card you're looking at in front of you, you'll also be able to confirm if there's any discrepancies between the card you're holding in your hand and the card you're seeing on the scan. Now, again, this isn't game changing because, CSG has been doing that already. I actually demonstrated that in a video not long ago. And then PSA started doing that with the high end stuff a while back. And then they're doing it with, I think, all the cards now going forward as well. So it's not a bad thing. Again, good thing. That means at least 3 of the 4 top players. So CSG is doing it. PSA is now in the business of doing it. SGC is doing it going forward. And they've got 18 months worth of scans to leverage as well, which is good. Right now, BGS is pretty much the only holdout in the quote unquote top 4 that hasn't employed this type of technology. And I would love to see that happen, but I'm not going to hold my breath. But again, a good thing. Good job by SGC in terms of adding these additional features. It is going to be good for security and things going forward, and it's going to help out. It's not going to prevent scams from being done, but it's going to allow a couple more things that are going to make easier for people to figure out and make sure that the card they have in their hand matches what came out of the SGC offices. Now, with all that said, let's talk about the second item. The second item comes to us by eBay, and that is that they've introduced the authenticating of high-value trading cards. So this is a bit of a more interesting one because this is a bit of a developing item that we're gonna have to see what it comes out to. But I've got some initial thoughts on this. So basically, the concept being that they're going to start authenticating high-value cards. They're going to be leveraging CGC and CSG as far as that concerns. Speaking of CSG, so basically, right here, your card is authenticated by third-party professional authenticators. Authentication is now available for ungraded cards, $750 plus, with the exception of patch or autograph cards. That there is no cost for the consumer as far as the authentication process, and it will have an authentication guarantee. So basically, you're going to look for a little check mark that says authenticity guarantee. Then they ship the card to the authentication facility. This is not dissimilar to the international shipping that they use now for international bidders. Basically, I've been on the receiving end of that, where I'll buy from the U.S. prior to utilizing another service like a Ship My Cards. They would basically send it to Kentucky, and then from Kentucky, I think it's Pitney Bowes who does their fulfillment. They would then in turn package it up and send it over to me. The experience isn't great, and the cost was passed along to me, so not a great experience. So it is a good thing that they're not at least additionally charging you for this. And then they'll ship it over to you directly to you via secure and discreet tracked packaging. So the cards at this time will have signature required delivery. And then, of course, that also impacts on the returns. So if they say no return policy, then you're not eligible for it unless it's within the return window. If they do have a return policy, it's still got to be within the window. There's a variety of different things that you got to keep in mind. The little holder is kind of fancy and all that, which is fine, whatever. Now let me open up the FAQ here to pull a couple things here. So basically the key is, again, it's still $750 and above right now. So it's available for sports trading cards, collectible card games, and non-sports trading cards, $750 and above. And then I believe the expectation is that they're going to move possibly by the summer to $250 and above. So that could start covering a lot of different cards in very short order. So just bear that in mind. Now, this one here, what happens to the authenticator after if the facility receives the card? They first confirm the item and collateral materials are consistent with the listing title, description, images. They'll perform a multi-point authentication inspection. Now, a lot of this should sound familiar to you to what eBay is doing as far as shoes. Same concept, but there is a little bit of a question that I have about that, and I'll bring that up just in a moment. So who's doing it? CGC trading cards and CSG as far as, between the trading games and between the trading cards, sports cards, I should say. So how long will the process take? This is important. After they receive the eligible item, the seller is required to send the item to the authentication facility. So here is one potential for a delay. The seller has to send it to the facility. If they take their sweet time, that's going to slow things down. But then once the facility receives it, they're going to inspect the item within 1 or 2 business days of receipt. That's what they're claiming. And then once the inspection is complete, the item will be sent to you with tracked 4-day shipping. So you can take about 5 to 6 days between their receiving it, authenticating it, and then shipping it out to you, and then in theory, 4-day track shipping, and then whatever delay there is between the seller and sending it to the facility. How can you track progress? That information is available on the purchase history page. So right now it's between $750 and above. I'll leave, like I said, a link to all of this so you can scan through it as far as the FAQ is concerned. And this is a key piece as well. Can I choose not to have my item authenticated? Not at this time. So right now it is not optional. So you don't pay for it, but it is not optional. Now, I mentioned to you a moment ago that I did have a little bit of a reservation about this. Again, you are creating a third party that is going to have their hands on the card. In theory, this is good in a certain degree because it gives a little bit of a layer of authentication, even for ungraded stuff, and it gives you that one additional layer where somebody's looking at it prior to being received by you. What I'm looking at, though, is I'm wondering about, in terms of depending on how many cards get sent this way and how many cards qualify, I'm curious if this doesn't create its own potential for backlog, Because while shoes have this kind of an authentication process built into it now through eBay, to give additional confidence to the marketplace, you do have to remember that it's a lot easier to buy a lot more cards. So it's one of those things. Volume may be a little bit of an issue, and they're basically promising 1 to 2 days processing to do the authentication and then get it out the door to you 4-day track shipping. I can see a lot of potential pitfalls here, and it'll be interesting to see because it does create a bit of inconvenience. On the one hand, does it increase the feeling of security? Yes. Is it possible this stuff could still get through? Yes. Does it create a false sense of security on the side of the buyer, where even if they feel like something's wrong, well, somebody looked at it and they thought it was good, so it must be good. And then the next time you go and send it, what if it fails inspection the second time? I could see a lot of scenarios where it could be a little bit of an interesting conundrum, and I could also see them ending up getting backlogged. And then, of course, it creates the additional frustration of further delays as you try to wait to get your cart. I can tell you that with the international shipping process, when they use that third party, sometimes it takes weeks. Whereas regular shipping still takes time, but it was almost always slower whenever they went through the third party, and I can expect that to be the case with this, even if it's still the delay of a day or two plus the 4-day shipping. So we'll have to see what that looks like, and as far as how practical that ends up being. Also, it'll be interesting to see that even though you can go on eBay and look at how many cards may qualify under the 750 today, obviously, it'll be interesting to see how sales volumes are impacted by that. It'll also be interesting to see if other third-party platforms, the MySlabs of the world, the ComSys of the world, and these other ones, it'll be interesting to see how they respond because, honestly, this is an opportunity for them to potentially be able to take a little bit more market share because it is, honestly, a bit of a pain to do this additional step. It does give the buyer a little bit more confidence, so I suppose that could help a little bit in terms of making them a little bit more comfortable bidding it up, especially if it surpasses the $750. But if you're on the borderline, I wonder how many listings you would get at $749 or, later on the $249. So it'll be interesting to see how many people try to skirt it by just staying underneath the threshold in order to avoid this extra added process. Anyway, just some initial thoughts on that. Again, as far as the drama and the rest of it, I'm going to stay out of it in this video. If for whatever reason we're still interested in it by Friday, then we'll talk about it then. Otherwise, usual thing, like if you like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. More videos coming up going forward. As always, we'll be doing the live stream on Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern time, and where we can talk about this, that, or anything else related to the hobby world. That'll be it for now. Thanks as always. We'll catch you in the next one.